Hi, everybody. Welcome to Open Book, the interview series. This is featuring conversations with authors about the moments that their platform changed everything and what it took to build a lasting career around their work. Today, I'm here with Cole Hastings, debut author of Echoes Across Infinity. We connected through a mutual friend, our friend Tom, whose influencer management agency, Small Screen, is representing Cole. So, hi, Cole. Nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about the book, see what else we get into.
Me too. So I know that identity is a big theme of your newly released debut novel. And I think it's also very interesting because your own platform also had to go through an identity shift from more of the non-fiction, real life topics that you're used to sharing on a daily basis to start to include the word author and author of fiction, fantasy, etc. So I would love to talk to you about how your audience was able to support you in that and how, having a platform of an audience of your size really allowed for you to spread your wings and fulfill this passion project.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know how it would go at the start, whether my audience would be receptive to it, because, like you said, a lot of my content revolved around kind of self-help, nonfiction stuff. I didn't know how open they would be to something that isn't related to just 7 habits of highly effective people, Atomic Habits, all these books that we typically think of. Luckily, I've gone through this process of changing the type of content I make on both Instagram and YouTube quite a bit over the years. I started as more of like a self-improvement YouTuber, and then actually my Instagram was bigger than my YouTube at one point, and I was making mostly fitness content. So I understand that if you start posting something, like, your audience naturally adapts to it, so long as it is adjacent enough to what you currently make, to the point where they'll be like, oh, I can actually get down with this. Like, you tie it back to your content in some way. And in order to assimilate into this new identity, what I did was I related fiction to nonfiction in a way in the content that I made on both Instagram and YouTube. And the majority of what I've done to promote this book, to be honest, has just been shorts. So Reels and YouTube shorts. My YouTube content still isn't even really related to writing or fiction, but I have made some videos related to that now that I published the book, so it would get more people interested in the book. And so my shorts and my Reels mostly are about why fiction is often more powerful than nonfiction when it comes to changing our lives and becoming a new person. And a lot of the lessons are almost the same in every short, but they are presented a bit differently using different words. I like to explain it like this usually, where in fiction, you're kind of temporarily living all of these different lives, and it dissolves your sense of self. And through that temporary dissolution and becoming this other character who lives a completely different life and has all these different emotions and burdens and responsibilities and beliefs, you come back to your own life after that reading session, having gained a completely different perspective. And by living through that character, it is almost hard to separate yourself from the character when you're reading. Like, you really do feel like you are that character. And so there are very few art forms that I think provide that same level of complete engrossment, just completely engrossing yourself in a story in such a way that you forget who you are. You place yourself in the minds of these characters, and you learn something through their struggles and through how they overcome them, because that's a lot of what fiction and storytelling is. It's there's a problem that needs to be solved. There's something the main character wants, and they have to go through a lot of trials and tribulations and a lot of tension and conflict in order to get to the resolution. So when I related fiction to almost the non-fictional elements of fiction, my audience was very receptive to it. And especially on Instagram, I mean, it was a complete 180. On Instagram, right before this, I had taken a long period of not posting at all. And what I was posting, there were like a few like self-improvement type reels, but majority of my followers were actually people who were there for fitness content and for like high protein meals.
It's so funny.
But it did end up, like a lot of them did end up enjoying the fiction stuff. And it also, I mean, I probably gained 10, 20, 30K followers since posting just stuff on fiction reels. And so now I think the majority of my active followers on Instagram are people who are interested in that now. So I get, I would say, pretty good engagement on Instagram.
You definitely do. Honestly, I have so many things to say about everything you just said, but to touch on that first, I have had people send your account to me saying like, add Cole to your interviews, or like, you follow him, how do you know him? Or, anything like that, that's showing that you're getting reach to all these different markets that maybe you ordinarily hadn't considered reaching, because you've got the plot type, you've got your comparison posts. We are going to encourage everybody who maybe hasn't had a chance to look at your Instagram yet, and we'll obviously put your links in the show description. But your post, and I think it was the first one that you said you had done, or one of the first that you said actually stuck, was when you talked about how fiction is almost better for your creativity and your empathy and the ways that you can learn through fiction versus nonfiction. I believe that's still pinned to your page, if I'm not mistaken.
It's not pinned, but I do remember which one you're talking about. The first one that really blew up, it was me citing a Lord of the Rings quote.
Got it. Okay. So so there's a lot of really great content there, which bridges the gap. And that's kind of what I wanted to touch on from everything you were saying. By convincing a group of people to come from high protein meals or self-improvement to fiction, you had mentioned that you were rooting the fiction back into the nonfiction. So you were using an element of storytelling, which obviously as an author now, you know how to storytell, and everybody listening to this also knows how to storytell, to make a connection and bridge a gap, like pulling a thread and saying like, I know you like this, like, whether it's a high protein meal or Atomic Habits or whatever it may be, you're interested in developing and growing. This character is doing X, Y, and Z, or this quote from this book is saying X, Y, and Z, so I'm going to link it back to this and pull you along with me until you have, seeded it enough that you don't need to always make that connection for them anymore. And like you said, it opened up the door to this whole new audience for you, who you don't need to transition their mindset from one angle to the next, because they're now there for the reason that you were searching for.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I will
cool.
say though, I think still the ones that get the best engagement are if I mention, honestly, like a lot of these people, they have it out for self-help books.
Yes.
And if I mention like that why does fiction do this better than self-help? A lot of people in the comments are like, oh, I've never read a self-help book, or I never would, because it's just slop by business gurus or whatever. But yeah,
there's some
I
gems
think
in there though. Every once in a while,
sure.
there's a good one, But no,
sure.
people have very strong opinions on self-help books. So what made you decide that? So before I go there, aside from your two socials, the YouTube Shorts and the Instagram, what else did you do to market and promote this book?
I gave some hints, or I revealed some stuff in YouTube community posts, whether it was first initially posting that, hey, I do want to pursue this. I actually want this to be my next big project. This is what I want to do to challenge myself, on a YouTube community post, and that got a bunch of engagement and people were kind of hyped up about it. Or revealing the first book cover and having people vote on the fonts, the potential fonts for that cover. I was able to realize that I actually needed to change the first cover. People were not very receptive to it. People didn't like it too much, which was very good in retrospect, because it allowed me to make what I think is a better cover, and also it gave me more time to edit the book, to be honest. Like, I think I was rushing to get it out because it had already been a year, and I'm like, I'm about to have my wedding, and I'm like, I just want to get this out. I'm so glad that I took the extra time to edit it.
Also, the cover's amazing. Like, the cover came so good, you know?
Thank you. I think so too. Unfortunately, we're getting some AI accusations, and I think that just comes with the time period we live in and the I mean, how well it's done. It's almost as if it's there's some skepticism. Yeah. So additionally, I also was at the bottom of every single one of my newsletters on Substack posting an update for my book. So I just called it Book Chronicles, and every single week I post one newsletter, and I would just give a very brief, maybe 1 to 2 paragraph update on how the book was going, what I was writing in it, the challenges I was facing. And for weeks and weeks, people are just, it's just building up hype in them, I think, to anticipate this huge project that I did, and they're able to come along the journey with me to create this thing and almost feel like they're a part of it, which I think definitely did help with the initial sales.
For sure. And that honestly speaks to your numbers as well on your full platform between all of your active channels with, you know, you have proven that the consistency of showing up and the consistency of being transparent and everything, even when it's something on the more negative side, whether it's an AI accusation or, you know, somebody going in the comments in the opposite direction of what the post is about, it shows the power of the consistency and the showing up that makes people stick around. So on top of writing the book, publishing it, cover art, all of the other things, and maintaining the activity on that platform, that's going to be a question a lot of people have here is, you know, a lot of the authors, a majority of authors are doing this on their own as well. And they are having a hard time. They don't have the numbers you have yet for the most part. And it's almost like, where is the light at the end of the tunnel? Like, how do I do all of my book stuff? How do I write? How do I edit? How do I deliver everything I need to deliver while also writing a Substack a week, sending out an email, making sure my website is up to date, making shorts and reels, but you add graphics into yours, like you'll have books pop up on the screens and stuff. So what is your time split essentially in order to show up for your community and also show up for your writing?
I think you got to remember this is a marathon, not a sprint. You got to take it slow at first. I definitely have the privilege to have a lot of time to spend on these things because I've gotten to a place of financial stability and a place where I can kind of pull back on how much I focus on my YouTube videos, which are what take the majority of the time. But you've really got to settle into a very rigorous, almost monotonous, consistent routine for like at least a year to see this thing through. Even if you do have a job, you have to find some way to just incorporate at least an hour for 2 to 3 days of the week. If you did that, then you'd have a full book, say after a year or a year and a half. And so that's what I did. I kind of just adjusted my routine to have something to do basically every single day. And you've just got to kind of accept that if this is something you really want to do and you're not in a position where you can just like quit your job, you have to accept the fact that you are going to be working way more than you usually are for this year. And I will say it's going to be one of the most fulfilling, rewarding years of your life because you're just going to learn so much as an author and you're going to become such a better writer through this process. So what I did is I would have on Monday, I would record an unscripted video for my second channel. And on there, actually, at the end of each video on my second channel, I was saying that I was writing a novel too. So there was some more kind of hype building up, just mentioning it whenever I could in a way that didn't feel like super salesy. I felt like I was like pushing it down people's throats. On Tuesday, I would write, and on Wednesday, I would write. And I would aim for roughly 1,500 words for those 2 days. So like 3,000 words a week. That's it. That was my total I wanted to hit every week. Thursday, I had to create a newsletter and a thumbnail for my next video. Friday, I would write a script for my next long form YouTube video. And on Thursday, I was also making the Instagram reel and the YouTube short. Friday, I was writing. Saturday or Friday night, I was recording. And Sunday, I was sending over and gathering all the resources I needed for my editor, because I'm an editor for my YouTube channel for the long form video. So I had work to do basically every single day this year. But I don't want to sound like cliche, but if you really want this thing, I think you will prioritize the time for it. And like I said, it really doesn't have to be as many hours as you think per week to get this thing done. It is the marathon where you're going to look back after like 6 months and realize, like, I've written basically half a book by simply just showing up consistently, and it didn't even feel like I was doing that much. And you need to be able to balance everything and get that rest and be able to experience life outside of your book, I think, in order to come back and read the book and reread what you read during the editing phase and realize, like, oh, this wasn't as good as I thought it was, and there are actually a lot of things that I need to change. But as soon as you get that routine down and you have a extremely strong purpose for why you're doing this, and you have people, I believe, this is going to be hard if you don't already have a following, but I would suggest what I did was I built up this hype, and I created this promise to my audience that, hey, I'm going to finish this thing, and you are going to have a finished product, and you're going to be able to read this. And so I find that when I have people who are relying on me and they're expecting something from me, and if I didn't deliver, I would feel extremely bad about myself. So I kind of do
like a community of trust too, and that I think also helps with that transformation of your content and everything else. You're like, hey, I'm going in this different direction. I promise it's going to it's going to end in a tangible book that can be in your hands. Come along for the journey with me. And first that allows for curiosity of like, let's see what he's actually talking about. So they stick around. They just don't do a quick unfollow. They're like, let's see what this is going to be about, this transformation. Then they're like, okay, this content's interesting. He's still like hitting those spots that I really like. And then they're like, I'm invested still. I'm still here, Cole. Like, let's keep this going. And now they're your customers and they're your readers and they've purchased your book. So
yeah.
Whole cycle.
Yeah. So we're exactly where I was going, but just having that consistent routine. And if you don't have an audience yet, there's a common advice on the internet that you shouldn't tell people about your goals. I actually completely disagree with that for most goals. I disagree
also.
I think you should tell people around you about your goals, because it sets up an expectation, and you don't want to abandon your trust or have these people abandon their trust in you, And once you start telling people, hey, I am writing this thing and I am going to commit to it, I think that should work for most people, that because there's now that expectation and anticipation, you're like, I actually got to take this thing seriously. And
yes,
you're more likely to finish.
It's true. And also, honestly, the thing about something that never sat right with me about keeping your goals too close to the chest is, like, of course, maybe you're not sharing all of the nitty gritty details about them, but especially in the face of platform, you never know who the people knows. And, think about it. You're writing this book, and Tom is somebody who said, I know somebody who can help you take this over the finish line with answering these questions that I may have. And you just never know who's going to be in your audience. You've got a combined audience of like 900,000 at this point. Yeah. Of those 900,000 people and all of the people they know, if you kept your goals too close, like, who knows, you could reach them maybe so much faster if you loop the community in when you have their trust. Something I did want to touch on that you said was about the consistency of showing up every day. And, consistency is like the least sexy thing. And it's the thing that, like, it almost sounds fake at this point, 'cause every single, whether it's fitness or this or that, it's consistency. But it's the same with here. And I think, what you said about the consistency, but also about living life outside of your book is so important, because life inspires content. It's the content of real life that is what actually builds community, in my opinion, where, you know, you read a book and then you talk about how you felt about the book. Then you're building like conversation around that shared topic and that shared review. But at the same time, when you spend an hour a day, an hour or 2 hours a day on this project, I think it's probably easier to step into the role, I am an author, which then makes it easier to create content around the concept, I am an author.
Yeah, definitely. It takes a long time for us to, a long time of the same repeated behaviors for our brains to finally be convinced that we are this person that we say we are. And we should say that we are an author before we even are an author, in a sense. We should say we are a writer, so long as you're actually doing the things that writers do.
Totally.
And if you are showing up and you're saying I'm a writer, and then you look at your life and clearly so much time is allotted to this act of writing, then you are a writer. Then, I mean, if you are technically an author, even though you're not published yet, if you haven't published your first book, and you should be presenting yourself as such, and it will be much easier for you to just naturally feel the urge to sit down and write once your brain starts to believe that you are this person. And then there won't be that much friction at all between you and sitting down and doing the actual work, because it will be so integrated into your being that it would feel weird to not write.
I agree. Actually, I see you just brought it back to a nonfiction mindset shift. You can't help it. It's so funny.
Exactly.
My business manager / friend, Tamara, actually gave me this piece of advice last week, and I think it fits here for you, me, everyone listening. She had me just sort of write like who I am, you know, like Jessica is an author, brand strategist, like everything in present tense. And when I felt really good about it, she had me record it on a voice note. And then that's the first thing I now listen to every single morning. It's like, you know, it's almost like you're waking up and you get dressed and you're like, this is for your brain. I'm waking up and I'm dressing my brain in this present tense version of who I'm trying to become. And it's actually, at first it was a little silly, but it's honestly a really amazing way. Like you said, it like makes it so everything you do throughout the day aligns with what you've told yourself about who you are and how you show up in the world.
Yeah, definitely.
But now, obviously extremely important, what is your main character's identity shift that he is going through?
Yeah, so I think Elliot comes to a lot of realizations of how much his identity has changed throughout the book. At first, he starts off as someone who basically only has one friend. He isolates himself quite a bit, doesn't take care of himself. He walks maybe like 3,000 steps a day, and he orders takeout all the time, and he plays video games all the time. And he's not really passionate about his college major, and he just can't really see any hope in the way that the world is going. And everything in his environment and his actions reinforces these beliefs about who he is. He's just some average guy who won't really amount to anything, and putting in effort, there's no real reason to. And it's only until he gets struck with this tragedy that comes out of nowhere and experiences immense amount of grief and starts experiencing these, what he believes to be hallucinations, that in reality are him seeing glimpses into a parallel reality. At the start, they begin as these kind of glitches and these stutters, and it comes in and out into his vision and into all of his senses, and he has no idea what's going on, and it's so jarring to him. And in order to get this ability under control, he meets a mentor, and he requires him to basically completely dissolve his current identity and to really look at why he feels this way about the world, what beliefs led him to feel this way about the world, how his upbringing shaped him to become someone who isolates himself and who's very, very nihilistic about the future. And he realizes that, yes, a lot of this is due to circumstance, but at the end of the day, there is nobody who can change my identity and create a purpose for myself and push myself to be better except for myself. And he goes through this process of rediscovering a lot of his childhood interests and has more of a purpose to take care of himself, and that's through the person he lost, because in the parallel reality he looks for his mother, which is who he loses, and that purpose is enough, and that grief is enough to be the catalyst towards shifting his beliefs about himself and what he partakes in on a daily basis, so much so that he becomes the most confident, fulfilled, at peace version he's ever been through this parallel reality, which he is allowed to experiment in, because nobody really knows him. His identity doesn't exist there. And I think we can all do this in our current reality way more than we realize. We don't need a parallel reality to experiment with. We don't need that sort of incredible, like, it just not possible opportunity in order to start shifting our identities. We just need to observe why it is we feel the way we do and think the ways we do and act the way we do, and really ask ourselves, like, what do I need to do? What do I need to think to admire myself, to really enjoy life on a daily basis, and to have things I look forward to doing? And how can I start removing the things that stop me from doing those things and make it easier to do those things? And I think a big part of the book is Elliot grappling with those questions and learning how to answer them, and learning how to, I mean, it sounds kind of bad to say, like, use grief as like a tool to become someone better, but it is often in those most tragic moments of our lives where we come across a version of ourselves that is the most resilient and most purposeful and strong. So
Absolutely. And the phrase, like, you can only go up from here, in that moment, it gives you, there's almost a safety in grief and harder experiences where it's like, if I'm surviving this, I can try something new. I can try and come back differently. And that's the resilience, I think, that you're referring to. And Elliot's journey, I'm like not laughing at Elliot's journey, but I'm laughing because Elliot's journey is rooted in what your followers typically are used to seeing from you, and the content of who they don't, not necessarily who they don't want to be, but the things they're striving to improve, the things that they're looking up to you for advice, influence, etc., is the journey that Elliot is on. So you did root your nonfiction into his character. And I think that is just so amazing. And this type of story with, yes, alternate realities are probably not, I'm sure they exist. No one come at us for this. Like, I'm sure they exist. And we reference them, right? Like, we say things like, there's a world in which I run marathons, or there's a world in which I'm a famous person, or whatever it may be. So we have these aspirations, and we all know to picture these alternate versions of our own lives. So maybe it's not an alternate reality we need. Maybe it's the freedom of our minds to be able to explore that alternate version. And then, like you said, uncover the steps like Elliot needs to take in order to become that, if we want that to be our current life, not the alternate.
Yes, definitely. It was very well explained.
Thanks. Can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? Again, we're going to link everything, and where the book is available to purchase.
Yep. So Echoes Across Infinity is on Amazon. I think due to the distribution I used, it's also on Walmart's website for some reason. It's on Kobo, it's on Kindle, it's on Ingram Spark as well, which is a way to self-publish books that I actually learned through Jessica. And if you just look up Echoes Across Infinity on Amazon, you'll be able to find it. There's also going to probably be a link that Jessica has that will be a link to all the other links where it's available.
You know me well.
Yes. So Yeah, just searching or using that link is probably the easiest way to find it.
Perfect. And what about finding you?
You can find me on YouTube if you just look up my name, Cole Hastings. That's the name of my channel. On Instagram, my username is @ColeHastings_, and then on Substack, it's colehastings.substack.com.
Love it. Thank you so much, Cole. I'm so excited to see this come to life for you, and I'm even more excited to find out what your next project may be when you figure it out and follow your next identity shift.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure yet, but I know it will come pretty soon.
Creative minds don't rest.
Yes.
Well, thank you for tuning in. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you around the community. Bye.
Thanks, Jessica.